It's Thursday night. We're live. Caleb's here with us. Lone Star Medics out of Texas. Schwell's in the house. So is Eric. Q, Ross, and Casey are all on the fly. We'll see if they end up showing up. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gun News Weekly. It's Thursday night. It's just after 9 p.m. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you supporting our sponsors along the way. Make sure you check out Keybar and the guys over at Green Force Tactical. You know who we haven't talked about in a while, Schwell, and I think it's because I'm so clean cut. But they creep up on you is that dirty pirate hooker from our friends at Viking Spit. You want to speak on Viking Spit for 10 seconds? It's been a while.
I just put some in right before the show because that's how I get the whole shiny thing and everybody comments on how good my beard looks. And yeah, it also makes it very soft, according to my doctor. He likes to play in my beard when I go visit him.
Eric, you like to play with his beard. What's up, Eric? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? I'm follically challenged, and Schwell's beard is awesome. Yeah.
Follically challenged. That's a new one for me. That's good, though. I like it.
I think we should make a match.
Follically challenged. Checking in from Lone Star Medics out of Texas. Go check out LoneStarMedics.com. It's Caleb Causey. What's up, Caleb?
Hey, guys. How you guys doing today?
You look like a Viking Spit candidate. We'll have to give you a referral.
Check that out, man. The beard needs some love. I'm not going to lie. The beard needs some love.
Dirty pirate hooker will change your life.
I'm on it.
You're checking in with us tonight. We do appreciate it. Obviously, we want to talk to you a little bit about your business and what you got going on there. But since you're in the medic world, and since all of the main stories, we're going to cover 3 big ones and a couple flyers here tonight. Since they all kind of have something where medical could apply, we encourage you to jump in on the discussion. But most important, at the end of each, we're just going to make sure we check back in with you and talk something medical, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Cool.
Sure.
Real quick before we get started, tell everybody who you are and where they can find you online, but also what are your credentials? What makes you a medic?
That's the short version. Okay. Basically, I've been a medic involved with field or tactical medicine for about the past 15 or a little more than 15 years. As I keep wanting to hesitate and say it's only 15 years, but my wife's quick to point out that no, you're getting older every year. But I've been a medic involved with field or tactical medicine for about 15 plus years. Very much a student before I'm a teacher of anything. I try to learn more from my students than actually teach them. I know that's kind of philosophical and heady right now, but I started out riding out with the Boy Scouts of America with Explorer program out of Fort Worth with MedStar, the ambulance company there, and went after high school. Ended up in the Army, did 4 years of active duty as a combat medic, deployed a couple times to the Balkans, places like Albania and Kosovo, Macedonia. Then ended my career in Louisiana with the opposing forces unit. So we got to play really, really good bad guy against the good guys. So that was interesting. Yeah. A lot of fun, a lot of good work there. Got out of the Army, got onto the fire department, spent about 5 or 6 years there as a volunteer firefighter EMT, was on the SWAT team during that time as well, worked for a few, whatever they're called this week, private military corporation or firms, but mainly just stateside work, nothing really to write home about, nothing too exciting. But then about 7 years ago, I went down to College Station to go to paramedic school, and they made it through paramedic school by the skin of my teeth, so much that they said, hey, you'd be a really good instructor. And I said, no, I don't need to be an instructor. I don't. I just learned this. And they said, no, you'll start the basic level. So after paramedic school, they sent me to a bunch of the advanced classes, right? Where I said, you guys got that backwards. The advanced classes where you learn how to learn and how to teach, that should be your first course you take. Came back and some buddies at the shooting range at TAC Pro Shooting Center, where I was an RSO, they said, hey, well, now that you're a big shot instructor, why don't you teach us some stuff? I pulled an 8-hour class out of my hat, teaching my buddies, the other ROs, and here we are 7 years later. I've been very,
Looking at
very
the list of
fortunate.
courses
So
you have on your website, it's incredibly phenomenal what someone can learn from you. It's not just basic 101 and a little bit more advanced, and you have an incredible list of things here that people can choose from. I'm assuming you have people that try to get through the whole gamut, but you obviously have it together. There's no two ways about it. See, that's why I don't
Sure.
grill you in the show, because listening to you rattle off all that stuff, to me, it's quite impressive. It's great to have you on board with us. You definitely probably have seen some things and kind of been there, done that when it comes to some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight.
Sure.
All right, let's get to the main stuff of the night. Schwell, you and I talked a little bit about this today, but not too much. Let's go over what's going on around the country. There's 2 big shootings that people are talking about, 2 other shootings that people really aren't talking about. Let's start in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where, 2 nights ago now, most people have seen the cell phone footage. If you haven't, go Google it, unless you guys want to analyze it as we talk about it. But basically, you had a gentleman named Mr. Sterling, Alton Sterling. I could call him a gentleman once again. Well, we talked about that. The gentleman, Alton Sterling, was outside of the convenience store selling CDs, as he did for many, many years, apparently. And there was a called into the police. Allegedly, he got into an altercation with a homeless man, flashed the fact that he had a gun on him. Police were called. They showed up. We don't know what happened from the time the police pulled in until the time this video starts, and the videos have come from a couple different sources, but basically they're the video where the man has been tased, tackled, mounted. Then comes the discussion. He's got a gun, gets screamed out, and all of a sudden this guy takes 5 rounds, bleeds out on the scene, and has passed away. A couple things that stuck out in my mind on this one. First and foremost, it's a 2-on-1 situation. I can't wait. I really am interested in seeing what happened before this man was tased, because you have 2 officers that are big, imposing guys against one guy who's outside selling CDs. If they come up on the premise that he's got a gun, I want to know what they did, what actions they took prior to the tasing of him. I want to know what the conversation was. And that's just not there. The other part is... Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, again, this is just... I'm trying to get on mine now because I know you guys have big opinions on this stuff, and I want to hear what everyone has to say. Again, the paramedics pronounced him dead on the scene. He was definitely shot right in the chest. I mean, I don't know what could have been done, to be honest. The reason they're saying they shot him is because he was going for a gun. Now, he did not have a gun in his hands once the officer rolled off of him. The other officer then, once he was dead, walked over, took the gun out of his pocket. Schwell, you start off, man. What do you think about this whole thing? This is a multifaceted story, but what are your initial thoughts on it?
My initial thoughts, as with any time one of these shootings happen, are here we go again, and I'm the black man on the panel. I'm the elephant in the room, and I usually try and keep my emotions under control when we address these kinds of stories, and I don't hide how I feel about them. I like to be educated, and I like to present it in a very factual way, where I have all of the information that I need before I come up with my opinion. But based on the video alone, and I know you have identified that there are a lot of holes and a lot of things that are unexplained at this point. Based on the video alone, a thorough investigation needs to be done, and we need to figure out why this happened. One of the number one things that happens when these things happen, the deceased criminal record or their past is brought up immediately. It's one of the first things that you hear the media talk about. The pictures that they present of the deceased are usually mug shots if there is a criminal history. And I think the same thing needs to happen with the officers as well. If you're going to do that with the deceased, we need to do that with the officers. And I know that doesn't fit the age.
Late breaking news about one of the officers. Did you hear about his family's background?
Yes, yeah. I've seen some of that stuff, but I wasn't able to verify it before the show tonight. So for now, it's a non-factor. But I cannot just ignore it and say, you know what, there's something that's been going on Facebook or social media that we've been seeing all day, all week is comply, don't die. And when you really break that down and think about what that is being said, isn't that to me just screams accept oppression, it'll be okay.
That's an interesting place to start it. Man, it's a tough one, because I'm watching the same thing you are, and like I said, I like to check out different sources. I went and listened to the black radio station out of New York this morning that the guy ended up being on CNN later in the day, but they were having a very heated discussion, and I caught this small clip of it, and then I went and watched the whole thing. Perspective is all in the eye of the beholder, and this is a very divisive. If you're already over here and you think cops are bad, boom, those were bad cops and they killed that guy. If you're over here and you think all cops are good and all bad guys are shitty and that guy was definitely going to shoot him, boom, jury's out on your side. All these people in the middle are trying to figure it out. But the other thing I mentioned, I think earlier in the day we were talking about, this media is pushing it like big time. The mainstream media, the engine, the push of the divide is shocking right now to me.
It's because it's a 24-hour news cycle. You have to talk about something. And to keep content flowing, to keep people talking heads on cable, and you gotta keep it going, because then it goes away and they don't get ratings. At the end of the day, it's what do they have to talk about? They're trying to keep that story alive to move forward, just to keep the airways open.
Well, now they've got, again, as we speak, the gatherings of peaceful protests are going on in cities all around America. Not just where these things happen. It's not just like when something happened in Baltimore is a Baltimore protest. Every city that seemed to have had something happen recently, they're having protests. As I said, the problem with protests is eventually the protesters end up face-to-face with the people that they're angry at in this contest. And that's not a good situation in most cases. All it takes is one knucklehead on either side. And you're going to have issues. And I hope that it's a peaceful night, and I hope that it's not what we think it's going to be, but we all know, as you said to me earlier, Schwell, I have the evidence, and it looks like this shit's probably going to happen. The other question I have, just for the panel, since it's a gun question, can you shoot your gun from your pocket if it's a certain kind of gun? Eric?
I would assume if it's a small 38 type of style, I'm guessing a revolver, if it's in your pocket, I'm sure you could. You might hurt yourself in the process, but I'm sure you can shoot through your pocket.
Both with your hand in your pocket on the gun, what about from the outside? Because we all talked about this video we watched earlier on Facebook where this guy was showing that he felt you could do both.
I bet you could if you could get your finger into the trigger, because if it's in your pocket, that means there's no holster around it, right? So as long as you can actuate the trigger, you can get a round off.
Yeah. For some reason, a lot of these shootings where they find these, there's no holster involved. I don't know if that's just me, but a lot of these shootings that I see that are like this, there's just never a holster. Caleb, I understand that in the medical community there's a discussion going on about this very case. In terms of what should have been done once the guy had been shot. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think it's such a discussion right now, obviously, because it's recent and everybody's trying to scramble for the facts and the whole investigation and everything. But for quite some time now, for the past 3 to 4 years at least, there's been a growing, I guess, need for law enforcement, or not need, but issue of law enforcement saying, hey, yeah, we've got to be trained up in some medical, aspect, whether it's self-aid, buddy aid type stuff, to take care of the officer themselves, or themselves or a fellow officer, maybe even bystanders, or the big debate is, or discussion is, hey, what do we do about after an officer-involved shooting? When and how do we render aid to that suspect now, or to that person that they've been involved with the shooting? the person that's been shot.
Right. If they were just trying to stop them, they weren't necessarily trying to kill anybody, but they had to shoot them on course. But can they now turn it and try to save a life?
Sure. I mean, and that's from my personal belief is I'm not a police officer. I'll disclose that. But having a lot of friends that are police officers and working with them, it's, how do I word it? They're not police officers because they want to go out and they want to hurt people. People in public safety, they're there because they want to help other people. Okay, and we understand that. I mean, you guys get that. And so, yeah, bad things happen, and nobody ever wants to just go around shooting people. And there are bad apples. Sure, absolutely. There's bad apples in every group. But even then, after the shooting, okay, or after, maybe it's not even shooting. Maybe it's some other type of use of force. Should we render aid? Hey, their arm got broke or something in the scuffle or something. Should we splint it, or what do we do? Or we wait for fire department? Is it safe for the fire EMS to come in here and check it out? Or what do we do until that time?
They usually wait until EMS is notified and that there's been an issue, and they join the.
Usually depends on the department, obviously, but most agencies, fire and EMS agencies, they'll stage. They may be notified, like, hey, there's a officer-involved shooting or shooting something going down. Stage down the block here, a couple blocks away. Or, like, okay, yeah, we're aware of it. We know where it's at. When wait till the police department gets on the radio and says, hey, yeah, everything's safe now. You guys can come in here and, and help out. There's wounded.
In the case where that guy got shot, according to as much of the video that you've seen, do you think anything could have been done to save him, based on what you've seen?
I don't know. I'm honestly, I'm still wanting to hear the facts.
Want to see some more video like I do? I mean,
I want to hear. I trust the investigators to do their job and find out. Hey, here's what happened. Oftentimes, when there's people shot, that's one thing that's difficult to track is where people on their bodies are shot. That's becoming that's a pretty violent, or not violent, vital piece of information for guys like myself or other people saying, okay, well, if I'm a civilian involved in a shooting, where are civilians getting shot, innocent bystanders getting shot, or the good guys getting shot, or where are police officers getting shot? FBI and CDC keep stats on some of that, but not always. It's not that detailed yet. So I don't have the answer for you, to be honest.
Understood. Fair enough. And that was kind of something I wanted to mention is first the one video came out, the first video, and an opinion was formed because it's a pretty graphic video. Guy gets taken down. Next thing you know, there's a couple guys on top of him wrestling, trying to put cuffs on. Next thing you know, gun goes off. You don't see that every day. Excuse me. Then the second video came out, and that changed your overall perception of what happened because now you have a different view that you can now add to that. Let's not forget that there's other views. There's the body cameras. Who knows? They say they fell off. Hopefully they fell off and were aimed at the action or could pick up the audio or whatever. We know that there's another video that was taken from the convenience store that has yet to be seen or shown. So I think once all of that is out there, now you have enough video evidence that you can and audio, that we can all kind of draw some real conclusions on it. Any other thoughts on it for anyone?
I'm just curious, and I'm sure it's department by department, but once a suspect is shot, it goes back to the question of do you render aid or do you wait until the person is, in handcuffs or the scene is secured? What's that process like? I think it was 4 or 5 shots in this case, or something like that. What's the next steps? Okay, so you shot the individual. Do you now render aid until EMS arrives because they're not on scene at the same time the police are, or do you wait until EMS arrives?
I think this is going to get into this second story quite a bit as well, Eric. That exact question. Swell, anything else on that one before we switch gears?
No, sir.
All right. So the other story, the big one that came out today, which is again brutal, and I mean maybe we can just kind of set the scene of it of what happened, but we've been dinking around with Facebook. I've been dinking around with the Facebook video in the morning, doing some stuff out by the pool, talking about products, talking about different stuff we're going to do on the live shows. And I think it was Eric this morning that hit us with this link and said, man, such a shitty thing to see first thing in the morning, but there was a Minnesota couple pulled over for a taillight violation, and the next thing you know, this woman went live on Facebook and I'm gonna just kind of jump around because this is the full video with like 9 minutes or something like that. Let me and it is graphic, so anybody that's got anyone watching, you know, that shouldn't be or is sensitive to this type of thing, please let them know that they need to get out the room real quick and come back. But long story short, there's a woman in the car. Her boyfriend has been shot in the arm several times apparently, and she kind of tells the story from the start. There also is a child in the back seat.
Tail light in the back, and the police just he's covered. He killed my boyfriend. He's licensed. He's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm. We're waiting for a back. I will, sir. No worries. I will. He just shot his arm off. We got pulled over on Larpener.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand open.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license. Oh my God! Please don't tell me he's dead. Please don't.
It's actually a good spot to pause it. It goes on to have her go outside and get put into the police car, where she then goes from being completely calm. She does flip out a little bit, and the daughter then consoles her. And
that daughter is 4 years old too, so it's got a lot going on.
It's a crazy story. The fact that it was live on Facebook is unbelievable, and I think once again we're going to see more and more crazy things live on some of these applications where all you have to do is tap a couple buttons. Well, I think it was you that mentioned to me earlier, she must have, when they first pulled her over, gotten the phone out and prepped it up a little bit, because it does take more than just a quick swipe to get that thing up and running on a Facebook chat.
Yeah, I honestly think that process had already started, and then the exchange happened, and it may have slowed things down, and that's why we got the video after the shooting had already occurred. Again, another wake up in the morning, and here we are with another one, and it's like, wow. All right, guys, what the hell is going on?
It is, and now I think this guy. Okay, let's talk about the medical side of things. So this guy's been shot in the arm, and the cop is still standing outside holding them at bay. Once again, we're not cops. We don't claim to be cops or lawyers or medical professionals. I don't. But to me, that just seems way off. You knew you made a mistake. You've then confirmed it that you've made a mistake, and still what you're doing is holding them at bay. The reports are, and I didn't get a chance to confirm this, so somebody tell me if this has been changed at all, was that the officer was treated by EMS for shock and freaking out before they even touched the guy in the car.
I've heard that from one news source, but I want to verify that. So I've heard it from one news source this evening.
It was a witness that said this. It wasn't the girl involved, and it was somebody that was watching this situation.
So I'd like to put that still in the yet to be verified category, just because I'd like at least one other source to verify that. A couple things that really blow my mind on this one is, her calmness as she's talking to the officer as her boyfriend's been shot and dying in front of her and her child. And I guess the first thing I thought of this morning was, is first aid going to be rendered on this person? She may not know it, so I would assume that the officer would be rendering first aid, but then again, I don't.
She'd be in jeopardy if she tried to render aid and help.
I would think so. I think at that point she should not be. I'm surprised that they let her continue to film on some level.
For the record, there was other people that were confused about this. It was when you do a Facebook video, for whatever, they flip it unless you change the camera. If you change the camera so that you're looking at yourself, they flip the video. So they weren't in Europe. This was in Minnesota. It's just that he looked like he was on the passenger side. People have been asking that question today.
Yeah, they flip it. It's like a negative image.
Yeah. Horrific thing to see on the internet. That was the other aspect of this that's kind of shocking to me. 10 years ago, if you had seen two murders like the videos that we chose not to show and this one tonight, And you've seen both of those as a teenage kid in America in a city, as a black youth in America today. I would think that this would be changing your outlook on a lot of things. And I think that that's what a lot of parents are dealing with right now tonight.
Let me cover something real quick in the chat that just came up, and maybe this will answer a question for you guys because it was part of what you just mentioned a second ago. Her boyfriend was just shot for making movements toward his wallet after telling law enforcement that he had a gun. Why was she recording live or going live on Facebook? We won't know. Why wasn't she rendering first aid? Well, he has identified he had a gun on his person. Do you think the law enforcement officer is going to allow her to render first aid on a body with someone who has a gun? He just shot her boyfriend. Let's be realistic here. The officer is not going to let her touch him where she can retrieve the gun and actually take revenge on the officer. Use your brains and think things through before you start rambling on and asking dumb questions. And I'm saying it is a dumb question. He is not going to allow her to render first aid and do anything with that body while that man still has that gun on his person. To answer that question, we can go forward from there.
Of course, that's my point. I was saying something's going to happen if she goes to do anything.
Right? No, that wasn't toward. That was toward the questioning in the chat.
Okay. The chat people are acting up. Yeah, let them have it.
They're asking questions. We'll lay down the law.
Understood. I'm glad they're interacting. It's good to have everybody checking us out tonight. Thank you very much for jumping in. But yeah, he probably would have gone back to save life to his trigger mode. I mean, he honestly probably would have if he had seen a bunch of action or flurry in the car of her trying to do something.
It was. I mean, we talk about her calmness and stillness. Compare that to the officer's voice. I'm not there. I don't know, but you compare the two, and I guess law enforcement has a hard job, and I don't want to knock anything that law enforcement. It's a hard discussion to have, but you have to talk about de-escalation. What are the steps before you go to the firearm? Is my guess, but first aid. Could there have been? What was the escalation path to get to where he pulled the firearm out and used it?
Something had to have happened. Something happened. I mean,
according to the video, and we don't know what happened before she started the feed. He said they said he is a CCW holder. I've heard they told him it was in the glove box. He went to retrieve it, and that's when he was shot. I don't know if they have body cameras in Minnesota, so we'll see what happens. This may be the only video that we see of this incident.
I heard there's like a possible dashboard cam, but that's it. That's what I heard, and I can't.
And I guess to get Caleb involved, I don't know if, besides, like, we've talked about protocols and maybe departmental policies, which is boring stuff, but from I don't know if you have any discussions with law enforcement people that attend your classes, but is there ever any kind of like discussion about, do you render aid to someone that you shot after the fact? Is that a discussion?
There's discussion. I mean, even folks at their CCWs ask, and of course, I'm no lawyer. I don't want to give any legal advice, but as far as, you got to think, even if you are going to render aid, no matter who you are, even from a civilian point of view, to put it, your safety's paramount. Am I going to, if I'm involved in that, in not this situation, but some situation where I've got to shoot to stop a threat, well then, okay, am I going to start rendering aid? No, I'm not going to go and put hands on that person. There's still a danger. There's still a threat. If they're conscious, unconscious, whatever the case may be, and even in the officer, I'm not going to try to quarterback here for the officers, for law enforcement by any means. It's to answer the question, there is a discussion about it, but obviously, hey, we've got to think safety first. Whatever their procedure is after they involved the shooting, whether they handcuff them, I don't know the correct terminology, but to handcuff them, secure that suspect or that person, individual, they search them. I assume they search them for any other weapons or anything that could be used as a weapon. And then from then, or there may be a couple other steps that they do to properly secure that person, so that way it's safe to render aid. So whether you're law enforcement, a CCW, armed citizen, then you've got to think, is it safe for me to render aid? And that goes back to EMT and Paramedic School 101. Is the scene safe for us to be here rendering aid? And if it's not, then we need to leave. Well, if the suspect is potentially still a threat, or the other people in the vehicle are still a potential threat, then yeah, I'm not worried about rendering aid yet. I'm worried about rendering this whole area safe.
Understood.
Well, for those of you that are not on the Gun Channel's chat, the question was raised as to why he told the officer that he was carrying concealed. In the state of Minnesota, it is a must inform on initial contact state. That is part of the CCW laws in Minnesota. So he did what he was supposed to do. Whether it went down the way that she's reporting it remains to be seen, and hopefully we can find out a lot of that information. And some people won't wait for that information, as we've seen in the past. Things are going to be ugly, and I guess we just have to hold tight and see how it unfolds.
Correct.
Later this afternoon, the governor of Minnesota came out and spoke about the situation and what his feelings were. We're not going to go into that because those are his feelings. But a question was asked after his press conference about, as a CCW holder, would his information appear when they ran the car's tags or when they ran his license? And the answer is no, because that's private information. So that's, I think, also going to be a discussion is, as a CCW holder, how do you interact with law enforcement?
Yeah, that's state by state too, isn't it?
I'm sure it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's weird.
I think a great video, Swell, upcoming for us when we're over at the training center next week would be to have a real discussion with my friend over there about what my protocol is, what your protocol is, and then let him know where our holes are or what we're doing right, wrong, correct. I think that would be a great video to do. I know what I'm going to do.
I agree.
It might be the same as what you do. It might be slightly different. We don't know.
Don't you take a puff of the marijuana and blow it in the officer's face and then like, hey, bro, I'm high and I have a bunch of guns in the car? Isn't that how you do it?
And then he hits the trunk button, right?
Right.
Don't I know you? All right.
So it's going to be an interesting conversation for CCW holders as well, because every state's different. In Minnesota, sheriffs issue the CCWs as well, so it's going to be interesting.
Anybody that's out there that's got opinions on this stuff, if you hate the cops and you're out there angry about the fact that this stuff is going down, take a look at the other side. If you're on the other side and you think it's nothing but bad people out there and they got what they deserved, take a look at the other side as well. We'll just put it that way, and hope that everybody's, again, safe out there this weekend. There's no reason to get all in a huff and puff over this beyond doing a peaceful protest. We'll see what happens. Half past the hour and just a little bit more beyond that. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Once again, check out Green Force Tactical for your Kydex holsters. Check out Keybar when you get a chance. They got some cool new key bars. If you don't follow Keybar on like Instagram or Facebook, you're missing out. Those guys do it up and they keep pushing forward. They put out a new Cryptek one that matches one of my holsters. Now I got to get a Cryptek key bar. This is how it rolls. Check out Grizzly Targets. We got some things coming up with them very soon. And Lanzang Tactical. Make sure you check out the video I dropped today with the guys from Lanzang, including Q doing their long-range course. I got a sweet little 308 barrel up there that we're going to be doing something with somebody. One of our viewers is going to get that very, very soon. Before we get into the other stories, let's also talk about some other things that are going on. G-Webs has got something going on. Schwell, I had that email up somewhere. What has he got going on? He's got. Go over to. Oh, I dropped the link in the blog. Go to gunnewsweekly.com. Look under this video. Click on the link. Go check out what G-Webs is doing over there with gun channels. Support the effort if you can. Did I cover that well? Is that about right?
He's doing a gun show loophole tour. He's going to be stopping in some of your major cities, or some of your favorite cities, not major, but favorite cities, going to gun shows, going to gun stores and things like that. So get out there and try and support him. We want to see this happen. I would love to see this happen.
All right, so we're going to shift gears. Once again, if you're watching this, please push this out on Facebook, all that other kind of stuff with your friends. Let them know you're watching. It's great to have you on board. And we do have some great guests coming up in the coming weeks as well. And to reset, our guest tonight is Caleb Causey from LoneStarMedics.com. So, Caleb, thanks again for jumping on with us. We do appreciate it, bro.
Sure.
This next one's a heartbreaker, but it's a story that we want to cover. Let's watch this video because they do a pretty good summation of it. This happened in Sarasota.
Moments before his death. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ashley Glass in for Jameson.
And I'm Wendy Ryan. Thanks for joining us. The brother of a 14-year-old boy killed in a Sarasota gun range accident speaking out tonight. David Brumby was there yesterday afternoon when his dad accidentally shot and killed his little brother.
ABC Action News reporter Karen Moshik has been following this story since it broke. She joins us now live from Sarasota with how the family is coping with this horrible tragedy. Kara?
Of course, such an incredibly sad situation for everyone involved. And this is a family that was well trained. They knew the ins and outs of gun safety and how to handle weapons. But in a split second, something here went wrong, and that cost this 14-year-old Stephen Brumby his life.
David Brumby is trying to stay strong after seeing a bullet hit his 14-year-old little brother, Stephen.
No matter how calm you try and stay, there's no way to wipe the images away from your mind of your little brother bleeding out in your arms.
David is one of 7 children. He says the gun range has always been a family place where his dad Clayton could spend quality time with the kids.
That's why he took us to the range yesterday. We've been there so many times before, and he wanted to train us on how to protect our family, to be loving and kind to everybody, but to be able to protect it if something happens.
The shop's owners say the Brumbys are all skilled shooters, and leading up to the accident, they took every safety measure.
And evidently there's a freak breakdown in the personal safety side of owning and operating a firearm that should have never have happened.
While Clayton was shooting, a casing ricocheted off the side wall and went into his shirt. He tried to brush off the hot shell, and the gun discharged. That bullet hit the ceiling, ricocheting back down, hitting Stephen.
I can't think of anything worse.
This family is trying to focus on their faith and the fond memories they have of Stephen.
Just the most outgoing, gregarious, friendly, loving person that you'd ever know.
It's a shame. That was a tough one to report on, and it hits home in so many different ways. You know, the whole tack daddy thing was started by me wanting to make sure that my girls, exactly as they said, were well skilled enough to understand that there's no need to use a weapon as an offensive weapon, but if you need to use it to defend yourself, you need to be proficient and you need to know how. And this story it sucks, but it's something we can all learn from, I think. So I wanted to cover it. Well, we've seen this gun range before, correct?
You know, I can't pin it down why I know of it. I do know that they are advertised as one of the safest ranges in the world, or at least that's what they call themselves. So I'm not 100% sure why, but you know, it's Florida, and it could be many different reasons why we know the owner of this gun store and why he's so familiar to us.
Well, it's a shitty story, and to hear that they had taken safety precautions, they had been there to learn how to shoot many times before. If this went down the way it went down, and the way I'm hearing, the gentleman shooting, a casing ricochets, comes back, goes down his shirt, rather than put his gun down and retrieve the shell or get it off of him or whatever it needed to happen, he had the gun in his hand as he was trying to remove or get the shell off of his person. The gun discharged, i.e. his finger was still on the trigger, because that's the way guns go off, and it ricocheted off the ceiling and hit the child. And again, apparently it wasn't just the older brother. Apparently there was another sibling there that saw this happen. From there, I have no information on how he was treated immediately, how severe the wound was. Was it an instant death? Did they have time to try to save them? Was there medical in the building? Was it administered immediately? We don't have any detail.
He was hit in the neck.
He was hit in the neck.
He was hit in the neck, and You know, when I think about stuff like that, I can't help but think that something major was hit, and there's not much that someone without any training or any experience in the right equipment would have been able to do. So, you know, again, more speculation, but I do know he was hit in the neck.
Or even someone with a lot of training. I mean, Caleb, someone gets hit in the neck, that's pretty damn serious. In general.
It can be. Yeah, I mean, the next, you know, you've got some major arteries running up on the left and right side there, the spinal cord. But you get some serious anatomical features there. But it's like y'all are saying, it's a lot of speculation there. We don't know exactly what the hits were. I mean, or how, you know, where the projectile, the bullet itself, entered the body of the neck, the trajectory of it, if I'm saying that word right. That could have a lot to do with it too. Neck wounds are rather delicate. It kind of goes back to, you know, like what we've all said is, okay, we're at a, you know, think about it. We're at a shooting range. Firearms, they're objects. Like you said, the finger was on the trigger. The gun didn't just automatically go off. They don't do that, right? So we take the risk when we do risk assessments. We're at the range. But how many of us, all of us, have been at the range where we've seen injuries, minor or moderate or severe? And who's carrying, you know, I'm not trying to promote here Caleb and Lone Star Medics. I'm trying to promote, hey, let's really put our heads together here, and why aren't we doing this? Carrying med gear with us at the range. Not in our vehicle, not in our range bag 10 feet behind us, but shouldn't we already have medical gear on us as part of our everyday carry? So if we're standing there in our jeans and t-shirt at the range, we've got some. And then we've got some on our range bag, or we have a med kit specifically designed for us shooting at the range that we wear on our body. You know, we have Ear Pro and Eye Pro. Well, why not some Life Pro?
Well said, and Caleb, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the show in the last couple weeks. We've been talking about medical on the regular, about all of these crazy situations, the terrorist attacks, the different things, and if you're not a gun person, what can you do? All of those types of things. We've all committed to, I've committed, and I think the other guys are already pretty much ahead of me on this, but to make sure that medical is a big part of everything I'm doing. Been carrying medical in a bag, just your basic stuff, but I'm a big proponent of what you're saying, and what you're saying makes sense, a lot of sense. I have jotted down here just a couple things that I've seen at certain times at certain ranges where I've had my kids with me, and I'm very adamant about them being in the range where the bulletproof stuff is, staying in between there while they're at a public range. I try to go when there's not too many people, but a lot of times if you're going to get trigger time in, there's going to be people there. Sure. And I have seriously considered in the past getting some 3A lightweight protection for my body, for the bodies of my children that are with me, if we're at the range shooting and there's a chance that something could happen.
I have a question in regard to this subject matter, Caleb. Those of us, we take classes, we do things. We haven't taken any classes that focus primarily on first aid and aid in general. Not yet, at least. I haven't taken anything outside of the military. A first aid kit, the IFAC kits and the kits that you guys talk about, the professionals, those are not what we're seeing when we're walking through Walmart, when we go to Sam's Club, or when we go to Publix and we see those first aid kits. You know, it's $20, $30 kits. It has some bandaging, some tape, and some stuff. But first aid is not what we are looking for when we're talking about this kind of stuff, is it?
You're correct. The term, people ask, you know, they say, well, Caleb, what is your, you know, I tell them what I do. Well, I teach field and tactical medicine. And they said, oh, okay, well, what's that? And I said, think of it as like first aid on steroids. Okay, I don't teach what we call in the, you know, what I call boo-boo kits. You know, you know what you know, like you said, we don't walk through your local sporting goods place or you know, Wally World and aisle 3 in the pharmacy area and find a med kit or a field medicine kit or a tactical medical kit. We see what you said, like just what you said, first aid kit, where they're going to have Band-Aids and boo-boo stuff, Neosporin. They'll have some little gauze pads in there for very minor, you know, for cuts and bruises type stuff. But for major bleeding, whether we're talking car wrecks, gunshot wounds, or stabs, or you trip and fall, carry your groceries in from the grocery store, you know, in the stairwell, you know, those are the type of injuries. Immediate life-threatening injuries is what we're concerned about, not necessarily our boo-boo kits.
Got it.
Gotcha.
You fall at the park first aid is what I call that.
Right. Can now let's say that that's what you have. Can someone with the knowledge, let's say Caleb comes across a car accident, or Caleb's at the range with Schwell and Schwell chopped his finger off or does something and ends up hurt, and all Caleb has access to is one of those standard first aid kits. Does the knowledge kind of offset the lack of equipment?
I wouldn't say offset. The knowledge is definitely, I would say, key. There's a reason that, you know, I've started my company not to sell products. I started my company to sell knowledge, if you will, and that sounds kind of cliche. And oh yeah, any guy that runs his own company is going to say, well, no, that's really what we do. You can ask people that, you know, how come you don't sell kits? You need to sell first aid kits. And I'm like, no, retail side of the business is a completely different beast, and it's a lot more difficult. But it's the knowledge. So yes, if you have a basic understanding of anatomy, physiology, and I'm talking basic, I'm not talking EMT paramedic level. I'm talking about similar to what our course is. And I don't care if folks take a Lone Star Medics class or somebody else's, my competitors, i.e. my colleagues' classes, but get the training and education, well then you know how, hey, I can use that guy's sock or a handful of dirt to control the bleeding out of their thigh. You know, or hey, I can improvise some stuff if you have to. Now, I'm a strong advocate about not planning to improvise, so don't quote me on that, or let that be misleading. But yeah, you definitely have to have, you know, tourniquets, pressure bandages, hemostatic agents, you know, chest seals, that level of stuff. You know,
I'm gonna start wearing my battle belt. I'm gonna start wearing my battle belt to the range with the med kit on it. Now that you've mentioned exactly what you just said, because you're absolutely right. To have it right on you versus in the bag behind you, or 10 feet or 20 feet, something could make a difference. I agree.
I thought Kevin the Tag Daddy always left the house with his battle belt on.
Hey, full kit or nothing. Full kit or nothing.
It's the Tac Daddy belt. It's not a battle belt. It's the Tac Daddy belt. Come on, we know what it's called.
Well, then that's what I try to tell people. It's like, hey guys, think of your med gear, or like as at least a tourniquet or a hemostatic agent like quick clot combat gauze or a chest seal. You know, think of those hemorrhage control things, tools, just like your defensive firearm. You know, well, all of us, you know, hopefully all of us do carry concealed. Okay, well, when you leave the house, you don't keep your defensive firearm in your truck, do you? Well, no. Okay, why would you do that with your medical gear? Why would you do that with your tourniquet? So think of your tourniquet and your medical kit, your EDC med gear, just the same way you do your defensive firearm. You know, you don't carry your defensive firearm with the bullets, you know, the loose rounds in your pocket, and the magazine stored in another pouch, and the gun empty. No, you gas it up and charge it up. Do the same with your tourniquet. Take it out of the plastic wrapper. Take the rubber bands off it. Prepare it for one-handed use application.
You know, something about tourniquets you brought up is you're speaking of tourniquets, is they're one-time use applications. I know people that buy them will sometimes train with them. I've told people that I work with that they should buy a second one for training, or buy a trainer tourniquet. I think a lot of people assume that tourniquets can be like, you know, 1,001 uses. You can use it multiple times, you know, for training, and then if something does happen, you can then slap that thing on. But at that point, that tourniquet now has become slightly compromised. Do you have any thoughts on using a training tourniquet for?
I'm a huge advocate for folks using a designated tourniquet for training only. Not to be too to put a feather in my own cap, but we did an article with Personal Defense Network debunking that myth, or not myth, but not debunking it, but just talking about what a problem is using those things.
Is that Pincus dude?
Yeah, that's Rob. That's Rob and a bunch of other contributors too.
Friend of the show. We're kidding. We're just joking.
But yeah, you know, and it's what we found out. I actually had tourniquets fail, and I'm a big fan of soft T wides and CATs, the combat application tourniquet. Those two and those two alone. They're you know, when someone can show me one that matches those, then I'll pay attention. But we even had a soft T wide and CATs fail through training. You know, but these things are designed for one-time use only, and we figured the way it failed, and I'm not going to regurgitate the entire article, but a stitching came loose just because it was overused. And talking with the owner of TAC Med Solutions, the people that make the soft T wide, he and I kind of came up with a ballpark a very, very rough estimate, because I don't keep track of. I've got over 30 tourniquets, and I have a classroom of 15 students practicing skills practice. I don't know how many times in a one-day class on live people and a mannequin, and I have no idea how long that one particular tourniquet was used, but we ballpark estimate over 200 to 250 times within about a 6-month time period. And for it to last that long, we were kind of impressed with it. He was impressed with this product, but it was never designed to do that. So yes, short answer is definitely get your real-world tourniquet, leave it for real-world. Open it up, look at it, try it on, make sure, okay, go, inspect it, make sure it works. But I wouldn't, practice with it more than 10 times.
That's great.
Get a training tourniquet.
This is why we have people like you on. I learned something tonight, so that's fantastic information to have. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Never would have thought that. That at some point, there's a breaking point on even things like tourniquets. But yeah, I get it. And Schwell, you got your wrapper off? Okay.
I was hoping nobody noticed, but thanks for throwing me under the bus, the tourniquet bus.
Well, the other stories we wanted to cover tonight, real quick. It's getting late. I didn't realize already, but there was other shootings that happened that didn't get any reporting on. There was a lot of shootings in Chicago over the 4th of July weekend, as usual. The number was down, but it was still at a number. And Schwell, you mentioned one that you wanted to cover about the New York City one.
Yes, sir. It happened Sunday night or sometime Monday, 4th of July weekend. 2 vehicles, one cut one vehicle off. Driver of vehicle 2 that was cut off gets upset, jumps out of his car at a red light, and approaches the car of vehicle 1 that did the cutting off. Well, the driver of vehicle number 1 was an off-duty NYPD officer. The guy that got out of the car allegedly punched the police officer 2 times through the driver's door. The police officer takes out his gun and puts rounds into the guy and kills him. And this is in Brooklyn, New York, this week. We're not getting a lot of buzz on it. There was no huge coverage of it. I've only seen a couple of stories that address it, but it was this week. It was in 2016. What they are not doing is they're not posting any pictures of the officer. And something tells me that this does not fit the racial divide. So that's why it's not being run on mainstream media right now.
You're saying that you think the officer was black.
Right. I believe the officer was black, and that's why we're not seeing it being paraded all over the screen this week. And I find it very odd. And there's been talk in the Gun Channels chat. For those of you that don't know, that's Gun Channels / Gun News Weekly. They've been talking about how things started around 6 p.m. tonight in New York City, where things are starting to get ugly in New York. And it was only a matter of time because, let's face it, they're coming home from work or whatever. They're just finding out about another shooting. So we got the shooting in New York, shooting in Baton Rouge, shooting in Minnesota.
It's also summer.
It's summer.
Kids are out of school. Kids are out of school.
Right.
It's hot. It's also hot. That's
Yep.
I said that these things, they usually transfer over around 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. The people that got off work, went to happy hour, decided to go protest, they're all going home, going to bed because they got work tomorrow. All the kids have been home hanging out all day, went out after dinner time, hanging out with their buddies. We might as well go down there. Now you're going to see the trouble. It's sad, but that's the formula. That's what happens time after time. What else do we got?
You said there was one more shooting.
Was there another shooting in New York?
The New York and the sad one in the range.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There is a question in chat for Caleb if we have time.
Go right ahead.
So Caleb, one of the Wayne in our chat is asking about classes. Do you have a recommendation for classes of yourself and what would be a basics to carry for a EDC med kit?
As far as the classes, just like anything else, just like if you're defensive firearms training, seek out what for those instructors and those companies that offer applicable medical training to what you're wanting to do. There's the market's flooded with good, strong instructors that are teaching a lot of good medicine, but the key word is applicability. Everybody's quick to say, hey, I learned tactical medicine. Okay, well, how many gunfights were you involved with this last year? None. Okay, well, how many car wrecks did you see on your way to work this morning? Oh, a dozen. Okay, well, let's make it applicable then. Yeah, it's cool to talk about gunshot wounds, but those are, fairly easy to, to deal with. But Lone Star Medics, we've got classes. That's why we have, like you guys said, our lineup is pretty elaborate. We've got over 37, I think, at the last count last month. 37 different courses, depending on who you are, what you want to learn. But again, I would say for training, yeah, a basic class, one day, a full 8 hours, preferably. And then take from other instructors. Like I said, there's plenty of other guys out there and girls that are teaching that are technically my competitors, but we all know each other and they're colleagues. So I encourage my students, hey, when you're done with my class, go take everybody else's class too. You're going to learn how to skin that cat different ways. As far as carrying medical gear as your part of your everyday carry, first thing is you want to think of it instead of treating, what kind of gear should I get, what is the end result, what am I wanting to do? And then we'll pick out the tools for that. So first thing is hemorrhaging, but basically bleeding out. We don't want to bleed out anywhere. We want to keep the blood inside the body. It's where it belongs. We want to keep it there. So we're looking at things like a tourniquet, a soft T-wide or a CAT. We need to get one of those, but think of it, keep one of those as part of your everyday carry. There's also, a hemostatic agent. Might not be such a bad idea, or a hemostatic adjunct. So we're looking at quick clot combat gauze, Celox Rapid, stuff like that. Then definitely, if you've got holes anywhere in the rib cage, for the most part, our bodies don't like holes in our rib cage, so we got to, plug those up with giant stickers, if you will. We call them chest seals, but they're giant stickers. Okay, they're really cool stickers. They're expensive stickers, and someday they'll actually start drawing some smiley faces on them too, just to be funny. But those 3 items right there.
Those don't come in the basic packs. You got to search those out, correct?
Depends on if you get companies. There's several companies that make these kits now. Okay. Places like Tactical Medical Solutions, ITS Tactical. Those are the two just off the top of my head. Got it. Got different kits for that. Obviously, it's not something we're going to find, at our local pharmacy or anything yet. We're hopefully we will. But those would be two places I would start. They've both got quality equipment and gear that they sell. There's more I could look up, and that's cool. I can send you guys links for them. You guys can share them with folks.
Caleb, I'm scheduled to get a personalized class with the family very soon. I know Schwell is committed to do the same. Eric, you should do as well. But we're going to have you back because I think we need to have a class dedicated to a little bit more. Now that you got those little pieces of equipment, what can you do with them? What are the basics? What again, help educate some of the audience that won't be able to go to a class, but at least, like I've always said, I've got all my equipment. Worst case, I can be on scene and say, I know how to do a little bit. Who else has education? I've got the tools. At least I've got something with me. It's a good place to start, I've always said. But now we're trying to take that next step, and we appreciate you coming on tonight and helping us and educating us along with these along the way with the stories. Definitely appreciate
it. Thank you guys very much for having me out. This has been cool.
And once again, everyone can find him right now, LoneStarMedics.com. I checked it at the website earlier and then later in the day as well. Make sure you check it out. If you're close there, if you're in Texas, go take a class. Go have some fun. Tell Caleb you saw him on Gun News Weekly, and he'll probably smile.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I also wanted to shout out Midwest Industries. It's been a minute. We haven't had time for tech time in quite some time on the show. But if you need accessories, like, again, just simple things, QD adapters, adapters for your rails, different kinds of rails. I'm a big proponent of their 308 rifle. I know Schwell loves their rails. The other cool things that they have over at Midwest Industries is things like for guys that are making videos, you want attachments for your M-Lock or key mod rails. You can have your GoPros right on there, that kind of fun stuff. So I haven't talked about Midwest in a while, so I figured I'd bring them up tonight again. And that's it. Check out TechDaddy.com. We've got a bunch of cool things on sale, including the boots from Garmont. And check out EverydayCarryLife.com when you get a chance. The new tandem holsters from Nate Squared Tactical are legit. Schwell, I might even let you take one home and play with it for a little bit, because I think, honestly, you might like this one different than the professional one.
I saw your video. I think it was a live Facebook video you did, and I am interested in seeing how thick it is with the new dual layer or triple layer setup that they have.
It's a good one. I'm telling you, it's a good one. So anyway, check out all that stuff at tacdaddy.com. Check out us and all of our guests and hosts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Obviously, shout out to Ross, Casey. Hope you feel better, brother. Q, next week we'll make something happen. And thanks again to Frank and everybody that supported us along the way. And thanks to Mama Tack. It's been a while since I've addressed her and said thanks. So I appreciate you letting us do what we do every Thursday night, getting loud. And it's 10:02. Hope everybody's safe. Hope everyone has a good one. Schwell, we'll talk to you next week, bro.
Maybe.
We're going to see you next week. We might even have to do some live Facebook stuff like we're friends or something.
That all depends on whether or not Eric gives me permission to come and hang out with you. Because, we're working on some stuff.
You always got permission. Yeah. You always got permission.
He's got the permission. All right, Eric. Appreciate it, brother. We'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good, man. Have a good one.
Cool. Appreciate it. Caleb, once again, thanks again. We appreciate you jumping on. It was great to have you.
I'll see you guys.
Later, bro. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.